Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide Podcast with your host, Mike Knight, where we'll bring you great information about a vegan plant-based diet. It doesn't matter if you've been vegan for years, part-time vegan, or just gathering more information. This podcast is for you. Thanks again for joining, and let's get today's tour started.
Hey, welcome everybody. Mike Knight, Vegan Tour Guide. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. For the first timers, welcome. What's going on? Thanks so much for joining. And for those regular listeners, really appreciate you coming back and always helping spread the word. Growing more and more each show. Always love that. Reaching more people and spreading more information. Because that, again, as you know, is my passion, what it's all about. This show is a new one and what, we're doing here. And I think you're going to find it really cool. I've got a friend, Danielle. Her and I met via what's called a social circle, like a networking group that we're in, just kind of all people sharing with each other and sharing ideas. And we met in there and then found out both being, plant-based, started talking. And it turns out Danielle was a professional bodybuilder. And then, took a time out in life to have children. And then in between, also at that time, she went plant-based vegan. Well, you probably know where I'm going with this. She is now returning back to the bodybuilding stage. However, of course, this time it's different. She's plant-based vegan. And so we started talking and said, you know what? It would be so cool to chronicle you going through this. And so that's what this is. It's going to be multiple episodes. She's already signed up. I mean, she has already gone all in, sent in the papers, and committed to going on stage. And so we're literally now talking and just following her through her process leading up to her big event. So I know you're going to enjoy this. I'm really excited about it. So without further ado, let's get started with Danielle and her journey.
Everybody, welcome to the show. It's me and Danielle, rock star. And to give you a little bit of background, some of you are going to come to this show knowing me, Mike Knight, Vegan Tour Guide, and some of the stuff I've done with my podcast website. And some are going to come knowing Danielle, because we're going to put this out to all of our friends and all of our followers and all like that. Danielle and I met through two mutual buds of ours, Jason and Brooke Rash, and they put together something that's pretty cool called the Social Circle. Danielle and I are both on there, and we really enjoy it. They connect people like this, and just Danielle and I connected on there and started talking, and she started talking about her background, which she's going to talk about in a minute here, but as far as competitions and all like that. And then we said, you know what? Let's follow your journey. So why don't you, if you don't mind, Danielle, tell them what we're talking about as far as the journey you're going on, where you've been, and kind of what we want to do here.
All right. Well, right now I'm on a journey back to the figure stage. I haven't competed since 2010, and this is really exciting for a number of reasons, but I got into competing in figure after I had my first son, and I did really well, really fast. Like I won my pro card. It was just crazy. And then number of life events and things. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But at any rate, now here we are. I'm now vegan, and my dieting is so much better now. But so yeah, I won my IFBB pro card in 2010.
And what does that stand for?
The International Federation of Bodybuilding.
Sweet. Okay, cool.
So I'm considered a professional bodybuilder in the division of figure. And so right now I'm getting ready for the New York Pro, which is May 20th. So that's 6 weeks from tomorrow. And this is it's like doing it all over again for the first time because it's been so long and because I'm dieting differently. So it's been really cool. And since I competed last, I've had another child. So I have two boys. My youngest is 3. So since I had him, I've had to obviously lose the pregnancy weight and all that and kind of get healthy. I was already healthy, but, lose the weight and get in, good shape after that. And the second time around, I did it much slower. I recovered from the pregnancy and I lost the weight more slowly than I did the first time around. And I've really been able to maintain a much leaner physique, especially now that I'm eating vegan. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So what opened the vegan door? I'm curious, Scott, a little bit of your journey, if you don't mind, on that. What led to that?
Well, kind of prior to that, I got into health and fitness in 2006 when I went to a personal trainer and a nutritionist while my husband was on his first deployment of our marriage. Because I was really unhealthy. I had gained all this weight and I wanted to lose weight and get healthy. And that was like my journey, in a positive direction after partying and just all sorts of things that I went through when I was younger. So when you first get into the health and fitness industry, there's like the general school of thought as far as nutrition goes and what you're supposed to eat. So like I followed that and, felt okay. But when I got into competing, my dieting went from like your average healthy eating to very, very restrictive and really high protein and very little carbohydrates. And I did not feel good at all. And as a personal trainer at the time, I felt kind of like a hypocrite because I was doing these things that I was taught were good, but I was feeling awful. Yeah. And it was kind of like, well, what's wrong with me because I'm feeling so bad? But I know now, I was just eating way too much protein. And so with having my first son and getting into competing and all of that, like my body was just wrecked. And you start learning about all these different dieting methods, and I've tried lots of them, and most of them are not so great. But I got to veganism a couple of years ago, and I did the master cleanse for 5 days because I really felt like I needed to do a cleanse.
Oh, wow.
And that actually, I had chronic pain from a fall that on day 4, the pain was gone. Like my body was able to heal that. So anyway, so after that, I really wanted to eat vegan and, it just seemed right. But all of the training that I'd had about how you're supposed to eat was so ingrained in me that I ate raw vegan for about 6 weeks or so, and I was vegan for a little bit longer. But all of that training was so ingrained in me that I slipped back into, your typical healthy eating habits and, like what most of the industry tells you should be eating like. But I was like, I always felt better eating that way and I always liked eating that way. But, all this protein. Oh,
yeah.
But yeah, like I always wanted to get back to it. And it was October, this past October, the October before, it was just like, I want to eat this way. I feel better. And even just the whole idea of eating animals and how it's just better for the environment and your health. And I found lots of support online with different groups. And I was like, okay, there's lots of people eating this way and they're really healthy. Yeah. And it just makes sense. So yeah, it's been about 1.5 years now that I've been vegan for good.
That's very cool. And it's cool you bring up like the recovery stuff like that. And also your shoulder and everything. Because, I've been interviewing people and you and I've talked about this like offline. That's a common theme I hear from a lot of people. When I interviewed David Carter, the 300-pound vegan, he talked about stuff he'd had since college. And, of course, he played in the NFL and went vegan. And he said it was amazing. He goes, once he went to this vegan diet while he was in the NFL, boom, like that. Same thing. Inflammation and all was gone. And another buddy of mine that's an ultra-marathon runner interviewed, same thing. He actually overtrained because he felt so well when he, shifted up to a plant-based vegan diet. So it's cool you bring that up. So, all right, so we've now got to where you've done it before, and you and I talked about we're going to put photos up later on because we're going to do this weekly. This is our goal. So for the next 6 weeks, we're going to have this so everyone can chronicle your journey. And like we were saying, I think you and I are talking about this could be cool so everyone just gets the real view. Even when, we talked about you're going to even just bear when you've had a good day, bad day, whatever, talk about it. So we'll get to see that. I know some of your photos from the past. You definitely, obviously you went pro. You were shredded. The photos look great. So we'll post some of that. What do you think now, heading into this? To get there, what are you doing different? Maybe, I guess, let's start with the food aspect. Because I know, like you said, I imagine, obviously, there's, foods that you'll stage in. I imagine different parts of your training you did past. So what's getting swapped out? Like maybe in the past, was it like lean chicken or something that now is going to be swapped,
Yeah, well, you can't really, like, it's not an equal swap. When you go to eating vegan, like, it's not going to be equal. And, like, if you think about the macros, when I was dieting before, I actually plugged everything in to see, like, what I was eating. I was eating, like, 70% protein.
Wow.
You know, and very little fats and carbohydrates. And, you know, that's so hard on your body. But now I'm about 60% carbohydrates, 25% protein.
Okay.
15% fat. Does that equal?
Yes.
Correctly. So that's where I'm at right now. And I feel so much better. So my meals obviously are going to look a lot different because I'm not eating, you know, 6 ounces of chicken with 9 pieces of asparagus and 6 almonds. So yeah, I mean, I get to eat oats and fruit and dates. That's my favorite meal of the day. And I do some protein powder, some vegan, you know, plant-based, but not a lot. And I mean, I'm eating rice and beans and quinoa and tofu and vegetables and fruit. So pretty much how I was eating before, just in more specific proportions and lower fat than what I was eating before. Prior to competition as a vegan. So yeah, and I mean, I feel so much better. Like, this is the kind of diet that you could eat all the time anyway. And where, like, before the competition diet was like, nobody could sustain this, you know, long term. You just can't eat like that.
Cool. So that's what I was wondering. So great segue. And that is, and again, this is my ignorance from never having, you know, done bodybuilding or anything. You know, I had a few friends in the past, so I'd overhear things. So this is where I get dangerous with my trying to remember stuff.
Right.
But do you ever, quote, ramp up maybe at this part of the 6 weeks, if you will, and then, quote, chisel? Or did you do that in the past? And maybe it's different now, because I know a vegan plant-based is going to naturally keep you leaner anyway in life. So does that help? I'm curious as kind of what the strategy is.
Really, it's kind of like see what happens. And another thing, being vegan, because I'm eating high carb, I'm not going to be depleting myself like you typically do. A lot of bodybuilders will do like a depleting of the carbohydrates, and then, you know, and then filling up with the carbohydrates into your muscles prior to the show. But like, I'm not doing that because I'm eating a higher amount of carbohydrates. But because I'm eating more carbohydrates, I have way more energy in the gym, and the recovery is just much faster and easier. And really, as I go into this, my calories, you know, we're having a good deficit so that I can lose fat. And I don't have a ton to lose, but I do have some. So this really, it's just kind of watching how I change and seeing what we need to tweak along the way. But it's not like I've done, you know, 6 weeks of bulking and now I'm cutting, or I just kind of starting from where I was and just increasing my training and being on a specific meal plan.
That is cool. Now, is that similar to what you did last time? You know, the prior competitions and all like that?
The training part?
Yeah.
Yeah, the training is very similar.
Gotcha.
Each time I did 4 shows. Each time the training was a little bit different. But this is a situation where I can't really take credit because I have crazy genetics. And some people have a harder time putting on muscle than others. So for me, I can put on muscle fairly easily, so I don't have to go doing crazy things to try to put on muscle. But I've naturally been fairly proportioned. So when I started exercising, as long as I was hitting my whole body, things just seemed to develop nicely.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, before I was training and just kind of doing my thing in the gym, and now I'm doing 5-day split. This time I'm doing a push-pull, which I haven't really done that before, but supersetting exercises, which is what I was doing before, and doing some cardio, and doing like 1 HIIT training a week right now.
All right.
But
talk about the
I'm not
push-pull.
doing as much cardio as I did before.
Oh, really? Okay. How about what's push-pull? If you would describe that for people listening, kind of what?
So like push-ups would be a pushing motion, pulling.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The muscle motions. Cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So so like one day would be more of a push, another day would be more of a pull.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what is it? And I know when we first started, you talking about you've already knocked out cardio. So what is kind of normal day looking like now? You kind of hit like cardio maybe in the morning or whatever, and then maybe hitting some weights or something like that later afternoon, evening, or?
Yeah, I'm still playing around with my schedule because I have 2 boys, and sometimes, like there's snow. Like there was a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, I'm either doing weights and cardio at the same time in the evening. Mm-hmm. Some days for my cardio, I'm just doing I'm walking for an hour, like a brisk walk. So doing that earlier in the day, and then doing but I'm only doing that 3 days a week. I'm not doing that walk every day. But then after my workout, I will do like 20 to 30 minutes of cardio.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of what it's looking like right now.
Cool. All right, so we've started, and you're going through it. What have you noticed this time with plant-based vegan? What do you think? What has maybe been a shock? Or even something that, hey, I mean, sometimes life is this way that you maybe say, you know what? I thought maybe this would be easier plant-based vegan, but being honest, it's a little tougher if there's anything like that. I'm just kind of curious, what initial reactions have been with your body and all.
Right. Well, it's been so much easier. And honestly, coming into this, I had a lot of fears because of what I went through before. And that's why, I hired Chrissy to help me with my dieting because like I've obviously done a ton of research about vegan eating, and it's like I know what I'm supposed to do, but without having that professional on the outside looking in saying, yes, let's start here, and kind of verifying that what I have learned is correct. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fears going into it because we went through a really difficult time in our lives when I competed before, and I felt really awful, and so I didn't want to experience that again. But I've always known, and I've always felt like we're supposed to be in great shape, and when you're eating as you should be eating, you're going to have energy and exercising and all of that. I mean, we should naturally be taking great care of ourselves, and that shouldn't make you feel awful. You should be feeling good. So, but just the whole competition, I had fears coming into it because of what happened before. But yeah, I mean, I feel really good. And once I started the plan that she gave me, it was like, okay, yeah. I mean, this is kind of what I've been eating like anyway. It's just a little more specific on the portions.
Well, I think that's so cool. And I think that's a cool sidebar note to everyone listening, just kind of like a life lesson, that even though you've been through it before and you've got great knowledge, you still reached out and have someone coaching you. And I think that's cool to remind people, because a lot of times in life we forget that, that maybe we ought to think about doing that is, even if we've been to the level, I mean, pro, where you've been, but still, sometimes, it is we let ego get in our own way. So I think it's so cool that you're like, you know what, I'm still going to, step away, even though I know how to do this. Right. I'm going to still seek you. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think, and I know most pros have coaches, you have people that are helping you, but for me and really anyone, even if you're just the average person who wants to lose weight, having somebody else telling you what to do relieves your mind of having to constantly think about it.
Yep.
So for me, all this knowledge I have, it could be very easy to kind of spin in circles and go, oh, well, I could do this, or maybe I could do it that way. But just having someone else say, okay, eat this, and then, okay, I don't need to think about it anymore.
Yep. I love it. It's so funny. When you and I were first talking, if you remember, I told you that when I first went plant-based vegan, and I'm the same way. I love working out, worked out my whole life, always doing different things. And I wanted to find a plant-based vegan personal trainer. That was my goal. And I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I found one. Same thing. I went into him and I said, you know what? I just – because he kind of said the same thing. Almost your situation. We were like, look, you obviously are in shape, and all kind of what do you want? I said, look, I'm turning my brain off when I walk in.
Yes.
I literally want you to say, go there, do 20 of this, go there. I said, and then eating. Same thing. He made it all. His name's Shabaka. I actually interviewed him on an earlier podcast, and just, that's what I loved, because he was like, look, let's do this for your eating. It's like you and our kid around. I told you his big thing. He loves sweet potatoes. And he was like, look, after you get a good workout in, Mike, you get some sweet potatoes in you. So you gotta get some sweet potatoes in. So yeah, I'm totally with you. A lot of times it's great to have that, because I tell people, among other things, we got so much going on. I'm like, I got 2 little boys as well.
we got enough going on in life to think about on a daily basis. I'm like, if I could just walk in and just be able to just have someone go here, go there, do this. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it saves so much mental energy. And even with the exercising, too. I mean, obviously I can walk into a gym and I can put myself through an awesome workout. But even that, having somebody else say, just do this, then I don't need to worry about it. I just do it.
Yeah. That is awesome. So, and I'm always curious because, in life you always hear about hours and hours in working out, or some people they'll go like minimal time. What does that like look for you, like sets, reps, and maybe even time, just for people listening? Because a lot of people listening, it's going to be your journey, but also maybe they're going to want to get back in the gym.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What does that kind of look like a little bit? How many times maybe you work in buys? Are we working 2 exercises, different range movements, 3? I'm curious.
Well, how to start that? My training, I am in and out of the gym in like an hour and a half.
Gotcha.
Hour and 20, and that's including like walking to the car and all of that stuff. And I'm doing 3 like brisk walks per week. But for my training, like there's the bigger compound movements, like your squats and things like that, and pull-ups, but then more isolated movements like bicep curls. And it's really just a good combination of everything. And I'm doing some supersets, like do lat pull down and then bicep curls.
Gotcha.
It's kind of just a little bit of everything, and supersetting things that just make sense. Like the bicep curls and the lat pull down, they complement each other.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because everyone, you always hear the different stories. You'll get some people you'll listen to on TV or something, and it's almost, I think sometimes they let their ego get in the way. They want to talk about like being in the gym for 4 hours and 5 hours and all like that. And you're like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
And so that's
yeah,
cool.
No, that's plenty. And she has me doing drop sets, which I have avoided because they are not fun.
Yeah.
But they're good.
Drop sets, everyone, is when you're done, you want to drop. Because you're going to continue to just crank it, drop, next weight, crank it until finally you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, I do not know how I will open the car door when I go out there. How will I do this? Well, one thing, and we didn't really can't even hit on. I'm curious. All right, the motivation this time. Mm-hmm. I'm curious. What kind of relit the spark, if you will, and all like that? What is that burning maybe that's kind of pushing you on to it? Because it's obvious sacrifice.
Yeah.
ever since I competed before, it was always something that I wanted to do again. And I wanted to do it the right way. You know, I wanted to do it better and have a better experience. And I think the whole process of dieting down and committing a certain amount of time to eating really clean, I mean, it's kind of like a fast in a way. Because when you are eating really, really clean and your body is cleaning out, because you're naturally going to be detoxing, and as you burn through fat, I mean, there's toxins in there. So it is a cleansing type process. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've noticed that I am more, like my senses are more heightened, and I'm able to hear God more clearly. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I bring, not kind of, but that's what I bring into like my coaching practice. But so shifting the perspective of looking at it like I want to get shredded so I can look awesome and that's going to make me feel better. That's not really the point. And for me, going through this, it is kind of committing a certain amount of time to personal growth, not just, you know, what's going on the outside, but what's going on the inside. And getting up on stage, like it would be awesome if I won or if I came in, you know, at the top. But for me, just getting up there again and looking like I belong with the pros, like that's my goal. I think when you compete, you can get really jumbled up in comparing yourself to other people. But it's a subjective sport. I mean, it's not like you run a race and there's clearly a winner. Because at the time, I mean, you get up on stage and they're looking at you and they're judging you based on your appearance. So for me, like, you can't get wrapped up in comparing yourself to other people. It's really, you have to just be like, okay, I'm going to do my best. And then I always win, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's a much larger experience. And I think people
can forget about what's going on the inside when you're so focused on what's going on the outside.
Yep.
And even when I was working as a personal trainer, I mean, we've got memories and all sorts of things stored within our bodies. And I've had clients who would start exercising and like memories would come up and they would have, emotions and things. And you're like, what's going on? Like, well, you're moving your body, like you're getting stuff out. So, I mean, I think it's very, kind of a spiritual and therapeutic experience as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. I got you. All right. So, and I'm curious too, and again, this is me not knowing. All right, as we get closer and all, how many days is the show? Like one day, or is it is it like a 2-day thing, like a I'm just curious about that stuff.
Right. So typically, how it works is prejudging's early in the morning.
Okay.
And it's really neat. Like the last couple of days, as you manipulate things just a little bit to make things look just right. So typically, prejudging is first thing in the morning, sometime like around 9 o'clock. And then after prejudging is over, they make their decisions during prejudging.
Okay.
But then it's not until the final show where they actually hand out the trophies and the awards and things like that. So, yeah, you have prejudging in the morning. You're done with that by, late morning, early afternoon. And then you have to wait until like 7 o'clock at night to do the final show. And then that's when, you'll see the results. But during prejudging, you'll have a pretty good idea where you stand because of where they call you out, in the process. Cool. When I did the Arnold Amateur, that was my second show. Prejudging was one day and finals was the next day. So that was, you kind of had to hold your physique longer than usual. But other than that, it's been the same day.
Very cool. All right. So now for this next week, what are kind of maybe little goals in this week? I mean, we've got 6 weeks. I imagine there's obviously a plan. I'm just curious, anything off the top of your head, you're like, you know what? My goals over this next 6 weeks are X, Y, Z.
Right. Really, time management is my focus with this because I work at home. It's really easy to say, I can just go make my lunch because the kitchen's right over there. Yeah. But I need to prep ahead of time. I mean, I have things ready, but being a little more preparing more ahead of time so I can just grab it rather than assembling it, at lunchtime. Cool. So that's really what I want to focus on this week. And yeah, I mean, every week's a little bit different. So it's kind of like you have to start and say, okay, what's this week looking like? And then try to plan accordingly and course correct along the way as things happen.
Gotcha. Okay. And all right. So for all of us listening that at least in our own little worlds want to be little mini bodybuilders, what are some of the things you're eating? If we want to be like little mini Danielles, what?
I should start taking pictures of my food.
Yes. All right, we got to start doing that.
Well, I will put that up in the Facebook group that I started.
Cool. Okay.
So that's kind of the purpose of that because I know everyone on Facebook doesn't want to see everything I'm eating and all of that. But if you want to follow along, I'll be putting that stuff in that
and
group.
Tell everybody real quick now. What is where do we find? Where's that Facebook group name?
What did I call it? Vegan IFBB Figure Pro Danielle Reuter, I think is what I called it. You have the link, but we'll make
All right, we'll make sure we get it out there, buddy.
So people can join if they want to follow along. But I mean, like my breakfast is my favorite meal. I have oats and dates and strawberries and almond milk and a little bit of protein powder. I have quinoa and lentils usually for lunch with vegetables. Rice cakes and peanut butter too, the PB2, and fruit, rice and tofu and asparagus and that sort of thing, dinner time. And I do get one, she calls it a love meal. I get it like it's a cheat meal every week. I'm getting one of those. But it's not a full like binge meal, but eating healthy, but just kind of enjoying with your family, like if you want to go out to eat or something.
Very cool. You just had me, you're talking about emotions coming up and all like that.
Yeah.
You just brought them up in me on a flashback when you said rice cakes. You and I have talked, and the people that listen to me on the podcast know my background. I'm a meathead wrestler growing up. So cutting weight was something I did a lot.
Yeah.
And so rice cakes were my staple. I almost said friend, and I don't think I could even stomach myself to say that because I ate them so much. And
really,
you start eating rice cakes, and you're like, "There's nothing here but air. This is like nature's cruel trick." But I remember I used to eat rice cakes. But Yeah, and like you mentioned, quinoa. I love quinoa. Oh my gosh! I mean, it's such a superfood. I love it.
And quinoa is nice because you can cook a lot of it and keep it in the fridge, where rice gets hard.
Yes.
You know, so it's easy to prepare that ahead of time. And I found some really great sprouted lentils that they cook really fast. And the quinoa I have is also sprouted.
Nice.
So that's something that's easy and quick to make.
We'll bring a lot of that up. And you and I'll talk about that next show next week. We'll bring a lot of that up for people. Well, cool. All right. Well, anything else you got before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me.
Nah, thank you. Like I said, this is you and I both doing this. You were going to put it out to everybody. So I appreciate you coming on. It's you and I started talking about it and just I knew we'd have fun with it and just telling your story.
Yeah.
That's what I love doing. So I think this could be so much fun. Well, look. All right, Danielle, you have a great week, and you and I will touch back later on next week.
Sounds good.
Right.
You
See
too.
Ya. Bye.
Bye.
Boom! There you go, everybody. How about that? Danielle and I talked about it, and we just said we thought it'd be just, a new approach to the podcasting of what, I normally have on here, plus what she's going to release to also people that follow her and are following her on her journey. So just, we had a blast, as you could tell, doing the first one. Got more of them coming your way. Really appreciate, you tuning in and hope you got a lot out of it. I mean, you're going to hear more and more, especially people that want to talk fitness. I get questions of people, talking fitness time to time. So I know you'll get good information out of this and actually hearing from someone that is focusing on that in their life. And so you can get tips, on what to do. So thanks so much again for tuning in. As always, you can track us down on vegantourguide.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All those are also at Vegan Tour Guide. Email me, vegantourguide@gmail.com. And look forward to hearing from you. Send information. Let me know what's on your mind. Always love the emails. Answer all of them. As always, want to give a big shout out to Pat Flynn for information and inspiration on the podcast. bensound.com for the use of the vocal music in this. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And remember, live Pure Vita.